Is Lunch Bunnies by Kathryn Lasky. We do have her permission to read this book to you today. Clyde was practicing. He was carrying a tray with a small carton of milk, an orange, and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich across the kitchen to the table. The orange began to slowly roll toward the milk carton. Clyde stopped walking and tipped the tray slightly to make it level. "That's great," said his mom, watching him. Tomorrow was Clyde's first day of school. He was ready to learn how to read and ready to learn how to write, but he was not ready for lunch. "You better hope they don't have soup," his older brother Jefferson muttered. "They won't have soup on the first day of school," said their mother. "That would be too much for first graders like Clyde." "You never know," Jefferson said. "Oh," gasped Clyde. He could just hear the big wet splat of soup on the cafeteria floor. "Yeah," said Jefferson, as if he were reading Clyde's thoughts. "If the soup spills, the lunch ladies make you clean it up. And you really better hope they don't have mystery goulash." "What is mystery goulash?" asked Clyde, trying to keep his voice as steady as the tray. "Well," said Jefferson, "you know how you hate the food that touches, like the applesauce slops into the green beans and the beet juice runs into the mashed potatoes and makes them pink?" "Yeah," said Clyde slowly. "That's what mystery goulash is, except the school does it on purpose. They goulash up all these foods together. Peas, carrots, a little yogurt, some cottage cheese, good for good measure. And you have to eat every bite." "Jefferson," said his mother sharply, "don't go making up nonsense and frightening your brother." "It's not nonsense, Mom. Mystery goulash is frightening. Yuck!" Mystery goulash. Clyde hadn't heard about that, but he had heard about the lunch ladies, Gloria and old Mrs. Twig and Frances. They were very large and very bristly. They had scratchy voices and yelled at anyone who wouldn't finish lunch or was too noisy. Lunch was beginning to sound horrible. When Clyde went to bed, he said to his mother, "We should have practiced with soup." "Don't worry, you'll do just fine," his mom said. But what if what?" said Mama. "What if no one wants to eat lunch with me?" he said. "Don't be silly, Clyde. You'll make friends. I like eating lunch with you." "But you're my mother. That doesn't count." "Well, even if I wasn't, I'd still want to eat lunch with you." Clyde tried to imagine her eating lunch in a school cafeteria. It was hard. That night, Clyde dreamed about cafeteria lines miles long, where you had to carry your tray up the hills and over mountains and across the rivers and down through the valleys. They were scolding lunch ladies around every bend, making you mop up spilled soup, and there was no one to help him. He felt so alone. The next morning, Clyde's mother put his lunch money into a special little envelope. She made sure to give him the exact amount so he wouldn't have to get change. "Now, what are you going to do when you get in the lunch line, Clyde?" she asked. "I get a tray from the stack. I put it on the counter to slide it along. I get my envelope and open it up so the money can be got to easily." "You won't have time to do all of that," Jefferson interrupted. "Everybody's in a hurry. They're not going to want to wait around while old Clyde takes out his envelope, drops a dime or two on the floor. Hush, Jefferson, said his mother sharply. She turned to Clyde. You're going to do just fine, dear. And she kissed them both goodbye. All morning long, Clyde worried. He worried through circle time, through reading, through art, and though he did learn how to read his first words and make a nice picture, he was still worried. Then the teacher announced, lunchtime! Please have your lunch money ready, and remember, no shoving in line. Shoving? Clyde hadn't heard about this. That thought was just too horrible. Have you heard about Gloria, the lunch lady? The little girl said to him next. She yells all the time. That's what my sister told me. No, said another boy. That's Mrs. Twig. She's hard of hearing. She can never hear what you say, and she gets the change mixed up all the time. What's for lunch? Clyde asked softly. There was no answer from anyone. There was a small voice that said, I sure hope it's not soup. Or mystery goulash, said Clyde. I wish Jell-O. Clyde decided right then to stand in line next to the girl who wished for Jell-O. Her name was Rosemary. Clyde's class marched single file down the stairs along the other grades. Everybody looked bigger and more ready for lunch than Clyde would ever be. Clyde suddenly wished he could skip lunch completely. I have a stomach ache, he whispered, but nobody heard him. Let's move that line. Clyde saw something large and shadowy in the doorway. It must be Gloria. Clyde had a close-up look. Gloria was big and lumpy. She wore a spidery hairnet and had big, tufty eyebrows. Both hands on the tray, she said, turning toward Clyde. Oh, you must be Jefferson's little brother. You look just like him. What's your name? Clyde. What's that? I didn't hear you. Her voice was large. Clyde? Wait, right here, Sonny. And this time she bent over and pulled him toward her ear. Clyde? What a nice name. It rhymes with slide. And that's what you have to do. Slide your tray along the counter, okay? Clyde? Slide, she chuckled. Okay, said Clyde. Clyde took his tray. Sweetie, another lunch lady behind the counter held up an ice cream scoop. You want some? It's mashed potatoes, not ice cream, whispered Rosemary to Clyde. Weird. There were green beans, too, and something in a bun with ketchup called sloppy bens. And there was Jell-O. But it was a very strange Jell-O, stiff and carved into little cubes. It didn't shake or shimmer like the Jell-O that Clyde's mom made. Finally, they came to Miss Twig, the money lady. She seemed very old. Clyde was worried. Would she still be able to see his money? Rosemary gave Miss Twig her money. She did it perfectly, and now, heading toward a lunch table for the first time, as with the first and second graders. It was Clyde's turn. I have the exact change, he said in a loud, clear voice. Thank you, Sonny, Mrs. Twig nodded and smiled. Now for the last hard part, to pick up his tray and carry it to the table. He could see Rosemary ahead of him. Oh dear, he thought. There was some spilled juice on the floor, and she was heading right for it. Suddenly, he saw her skid. Uh-oh. She hung onto the tray. Clyde felt his breath freeze. The dish of Jell-O went flying off. Little ruby red cubes of Jell-O went spinning through the air. They bounced off the floor in a boing, boing jump before they finally stopped. Oh no, Clyde thought. Poor Rosemary. He remembered how the lunch ladies never helped you clean up. Come on, Rosemary, I'll help you, Clyde said. Rosemary was trembling. Come on, it's just Jell-O. All your other food is still on the tray. They're laughing at me, Rosemary cried. Then a big soft shadow slid over them. No, no, sweetie. They're laughing at the stupid Jell-O. Who ever heard of Jell-O that boings? It was Gloria. Let me help you here. Her immense lumpy body seemed to fill up the air around. Awfully nice of you to help, Sonny. What did you say your name was? Clyde. Clyde. A table of fourth graders started to snicker. Gloria glared. Listen to me. There will be no laughing, no uncalled for remarks. We've had an accident here. The table fell silent. There wasn't a single snicker or chuckle, not a word. A little second grader climbed down from her chair and began to help. Soon all the Jell-O cubes were picked up. Clyde and Rosemary found their way to their lunch table and sat down. Here's some new Jell-O for you, sweetie, Gloria said. Boing, boing, Jell-O, Rosemary giggled. You wished for Jell-O, Clyde said. Yes. And I wished for a friend, too. You did, Clyde said. So did I. And he forgot all about his worries. That's right. That night, Clyde helped his mother serve dinner. Why, look at Clyde, said his father proudly. Watch out for that milk, muttered Jefferson. But Clyde held the tray steady, and the milk did not spill. Not even a single drop. The end.